The Kidnapping of Paul Getty III, When Money Can't Save Anyone. Welcome. Today, we dive into one of the most shocking kidnappings in modern history. The 1973 abduction of John Paul Getty III in Rome. A young heir to one of the world's greatest fortunes. A billionaire grandfather, ruthlessly greedy. And a ransom that turned a family tragedy into an unprecedented nightmare. Prepare to step into a story where wealth and blood intertwine. A tale that will leave you breathless. Where the shadows of the human soul take form. To understand the full weight of this tragedy, we must first meet the key players. John Paul Getty Sr., in the 1970s, was the living symbol of extreme wealth. Founder of Getty Oil, he was considered the richest man in the world, with a fortune exceeding $1 billion, an astronomical sum for the time. Yet, despite his limitless wealth, J. Paul Getty Sr. was infamous for his extreme stinginess. At his estate in England, he even installed coin-operated payphones for his guests. He controlled every aspect of his life, and his empire, with obsessive precision. His grandson, John Paul Getty III, known simply as Paul, was his complete opposite. Rebellious. Bohemian. A 16-year-old who loved the dolce vita of 1970s Rome. The son of an absent father struggling with addiction, Paul grew up in a family scarred by divorce and isolation. His relationship with his grandfather was practically non-existent. Getty Sr. despised his grandson's lifestyle. And Paul desperately tried to escape the suffocating shadow of his family. But that distance would soon turn into tragedy. Rome, July 10, 1973. A hot summer night in the Eternal City. John Paul Getty III, 16 years old, walks alone through Piazza Farnese after a night in Trastevere. Wearing torn jeans, a denim jacket, long rebel hair. Suddenly, a white Fiat van pulls up beside him. 3 masked men jump out and drag him inside. In seconds, he vanishes into the empty streets of Rome. No witnesses. No trace. The young heir of the Getty dynasty has disappeared. For 48 hours, no one reports him missing. Paul was known for wild nights and sudden disappearances. His mother, Gail, living in England, doesn't worry at first. His father, John Paul Getty Jr., is lost in a heroin addiction, unreachable. But this time, it's not a party. This time, it's the beginning of a nightmare. Only when the kidnapper's first call arrives, 3 days later, does the family realize the truth. We have the son of Getty, a voice with a thick Calabrian accent says. Gail Harris, Paul's mother, screams in agony. Italian police begin to mobilize. The news reaches Getty Sr.'s English estate during breakfast. The family patriarch listens to the report while sipping his tea, utterly impassive. His first reaction shocks everyone present. Which of my grandsons? He asks coldly, as if discussing a minor business matter. When told it's Paul, the rebellious one, his face shows no emotion. At first, Italian police suspect a hoax. Rich kids sometimes staged kidnappings to extort money from their families. But the prolonged silence from Paul quickly confirmed this was real, and potentially fatal. July 13, 1973. A handwritten letter arrives at Paul's mother's Rome residence. The demand is clear and direct. $17 million for the life of young Getty. An astronomical sum, equivalent to over $100 million today, but a tiny fraction of the grandfather's fortune, estimated at over $1 billion. If you want to see your son alive again, this is the price. No police involvement. No attempts to trace us. The money must be delivered in cash, small bills, within 10 days. Gail Harris, Paul's divorced mother, had no such wealth. She immediately contacted her former father-in-law, J. Paul Getty Sr., the only man who could save her son. The oil magnate's response stunned the world. I will not pay 1 cent for my grandson, he declared. I have 14 grandchildren. If I pay for one, I'll soon have 14 kidnapped. Cold business logic applied to a human life. A wave of disbelief spread across the globe. Journalists besieged Getty's estate in England. Public opinion was horrified. The richest man in the world was refusing to save his own blood to protect his fortune. Spoiled children never learn, he said in an interview. suggesting Paul had orchestrated his own kidnapping. This boy has always lived like a hippie, wasting money, living on the fringes. I wouldn't be surprised if this were all a scheme of his. As days passed, the Getty family fractured. Some supported the old patriarch. Others begged him to reconsider. Meanwhile, the kidnappers waited, with Paul Getty III chained in a cave in the Calabrian mountains, unaware that his grandfather had already abandoned him. His mother, desperate, kept pleading. "He's just a boy. He's only 16. How can you let something terrible happen to him?" But the financial empire built by Getty Sr. was founded on iron rules. And the old tycoon showed no sign of weakness. Weeks passed. The situation worsened. The kidnappers, once patient, grew increasingly aggressive. Their letters became more threatening, with chilling details about Paul's suffering. "Your son is suffering more every day," one letter read. Does the old miser value his money more than his grandson's life? Very well. We'll show you just how much this boy is worth. In August, after nearly a month in captivity, Paul was forced to record an audio message. His voice, weak, trembling, begged his family. "Mom, Grandpa, please. I can't take it anymore. Help me. Pay them what they want." Family lawyers tried to negotiate, but were met with Getty Sr.'s unyielding refusal. He still saw it as blackmail, possibly orchestrated by his rebellious grandson. Meanwhile, the international media turned the case into a global spectacle. Headlines screamed, "The billionaire who won't save his grandson. The Getty dynasty. Wealth and indifference. The price of a human life," according to J. Paul Getty. Frustrated by the stalemate, the kidnappers lowered their demand to $10 million. But even this didn't move the patriarch. Their tone grew darker. "We've waited long enough," a letter read in late September. "If we don't get the money within a week, we'll start sending the boy back in pieces. And we're not speaking metaphorically." The Getty family remained paralyzed, torn between despair and the impossibility of acting against the head of the family, who controlled every financial resource. No one imagined how far the kidnappers would go to prove their seriousness. November 10, 1973. A package was delivered to the offices of Il Messaggero, a Rome newspaper. Inside, wrapped in paper, was a human ear and a letter. "This is Paul Getty's right ear. If we don't receive 3 billion lire within 10 days, you'll get the other ear. Then his body piece by piece." Journalists, horrified, called the police. An immediate investigation confirmed. It was a human ear, recently severed. It belonged to a young man. Attached was a lock of brown hair, unmistakably Paul's. The news hit the Getty family like a storm. Gail collapsed in tears. "They're killing my son, piece by piece." She screamed into the phone at Getty Sr.'s office. "How much more must he suffer before you do something?" The brutality shocked the world. The New York Times headline read, "Severed ear, proof of human cruelty in the Getty case." Even the skeptics, those who believed Paul had staged it, had to admit the truth. The mutilated ear became a symbol of the kidnapper's desperation and of a grandfather's coldness. For Paul, in that dark Calabrian hideout, the amputation was traumatic beyond words. No anesthesia. A kitchen knife, sterilized over a flame. Then, photos of the bleeding wound. Antibiotics to prevent infection. They didn't want him to die. They just wanted to send an undeniable message. And the message arrived. Even Getty Sr.'s stone heart had to face the brutal truth. The question echoed around the world. How much is a human life truly worth? How much is the life of your own grandson worth? Finally, after months of refusal, Getty Sr. gave in. But even in this moment of crisis, he didn't abandon his calculating nature. He offered to pay only $2.2 million, the maximum amount his lawyers said was tax-deductible. For the rest, he loaned the money to Paul's father, at 4% interest. A decision that stunned even his closest advisors. Negotiations resumed. The 'Ndrangheta, the Calabrian mafia, accepted $2.9 million, far less than the original $17 million. The ransom delivery was a spy movie operation. Cash in used small bills, divided into briefcases, left at predetermined spots along the Salerno-Reggio Calabria highway. Getty Sr. insisted every banknote be photographed before delivery, to keep a record. On December 15, 1973, after 5 months of captivity, John Paul Getty III was finally freed. The kidnappers abandoned him on a Calabrian highway, trembling, disoriented. A truck driver found him and called the authorities. His condition was devastating. Severely malnourished, lost nearly 20 kilograms. His right ear, crudely amputated, poorly treated. Bruises, signs of abuse. But the deepest wounds were in his soul. At just 17 years old, Paul was scarred forever. The fear, the loneliness, and the crushing realization. His own grandfather, one of the richest men on earth, had hesitated to save him. It would haunt him for life. After the rescue, Paul showed clear signs of PTSD. Nightmares, panic attacks, a profound sense of abandonment. His relationship with his family, especially his grandfather, was irreparably broken. Just 9 months later, he married German photographer Martine Zacher, perhaps seeking the family he never truly had. But the demons of the past wouldn't let go. To numb the trauma, he turned to alcohol and drugs. In 1981, he suffered a devastating overdose, causing a stroke. He was left partially blind, paralyzed, and confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. The tragedy of John Paul Getty III didn't end with his physical release. In many ways, he was never truly free. He lived for 30 more years in severe disability, until his death in 2011 at age 54. Getty Sr.'s cold response to the kidnapping revealed the dark side of obsessive wealth. The man who could afford anything chose to negotiate over the life of his own blood, proving his true devotion was to money, not family. This decision redefined the public image of the Gettys, from symbols of success to emblems of family dysfunction. The legacy. The case became a cultural symbol, told in books, films, and series like All the Money in the World and Trust. A warning about the distortions of extreme wealth. Getty Sr.'s infamous line, "I can't afford to pay the ransom," became a tragic symbol of pathological greed. For the Getty family, the consequences were devastating. Fragile relationships shattered. Gail never forgave her father-in-law. The siblings lived under the shadow of that tragedy, knowing that in their family, money mattered more than love. The real legacy of this story is a bitter lesson. When wealth becomes the only value, it destroys everything human. Family love turns into a cold financial transaction. The story of John Paul Getty III isn't just about a kidnapping. It's a universal warning. When one of the richest men in the world hesitates to save his grandson for money, we must ask ourselves, how much is a life truly worth? How much are human bonds worth? Can money buy, or simply ignore, them? Paul's life was never the same. The physical and psychological trauma led him down a path of self-destruction, until the overdose that left him paralyzed, mute, and partially blind for the last 30 years of his life. The price he paid was infinitely higher than the millions demanded by the kidnappers.